All right. B'musafim de Shabta ma hayu omrim. Amar Rav Anan bar Rabba Amar Rav Haziv lach. V'amar Rav Chanan bar Rava Amar Rav Kaderech Cholkim Kan Cholkim bebeit Knesset b'mit chata deshata ma hayu omrim. Amar Rabbi Yochanan az yashir u mi kamocha ve az yashir. Ibailahu hachi kulhu bechad shabta amri lahu. O Dilma kol shabta v'shabta amrei chada tashma detanya amar Rabbi Yossi ad shaharishona omeret echad shniya chozeret shtaim shma mina kol shabta v'shabta amri chad shma mina. Amar Rav Yehuda bar Idi amar Rabbi Yochanan eser masaot nasim shechina mikre Ukenegdan Galta Sanhedrin Migamara. I'll say one real quick thing about this, which is a new sugya, and this new sugya is really interesting because it deals with the peripatetic wanderings of the Sanhedrin. So we're going to learn, where did the Sanhedrin go in its peripatetic wandering after the destruction of the temple. Asar Masaot Nasu Shchina Mikrae Mikamop Kapolet Likruv Umikruv lekruv, umikruv lemiftan, ulemiftan lachatzer, umechatzer lemizbeach, ulemizbeach legag, umigag lechuma, umechuma leir, umeir lahar, umehar lemidbar, umemidbar alta, veishabta b'mimkom, shene'amar, ele ashuv el mekomo. So the divine presence traveled from one place to another. So actually we started by talking not about the peripatetic wandering of the Sanhedrin, but of the different places that the divine presence left after the destruction of the temple. As we said, from cherub to altar to roof to wall, yada, yada, yada. Kemapolet lekruv, mikruv lekruv, umikruv lemiftan, diktiv. So they're going to look for a scriptural basis for why the Shekhinah wanders from one place to another. V'nodati lecha sham v'dibarti itcha me'al kaporet v'uktiv v'yarkav al kruv v'ya'af uketiv uchvod Elahei Yisrael na'ale me'al hakaruv asher haya alav el miptan habayit. So that's the basis for where. Umimiftan lechatzer dichtiv v'yemale habayit el ha'anan v'hechatzer mala al el et noga kavod el umechatzer lemizbeach dichtiv re'iti et Adonai nitzav al hamizbeach umimizbeach legag dichtiv tov leshavat al pinat gag umigag lechoma dichtiv v'hine Adonai nitzav al chomot anach mechomot la'ir dichtiv kol Adonai le'ir yakra. So all of those verses, Ezekiel, Amos, Proverbs, and Amos, and Micah, give you the basis for where God's presence went after the destruction. Umeir lahar dichtiv v'ya'al kavod Adonai me'al toch ha'ir v'ya'amod al hahar asher mikedem la'ir umehar ulemidbar dichtiv tov shavach ba'eretz midbar umimidbar alta v'yoshva b'mkoma dichtiv elech ashuv el mekomi v'gomre slicha. So more peripatetic wanderings based on verses found in our Tanakh. Amar Rabbi Yochanan shisha chodashim nit akva shchina liyisrael b'midbar shema yachzaru b'tshuva kevan shelo chazru amar tipach atzman shenemar ene reshaim tichlena umanasim aved minham v'tikvatam mapach nafesh. So it then wandered into the wilderness, and there's a verse that tells us that. Ukeneged galta Sanhedrin. Here's the thing that I was saying before, foreshadowing, right? This is compared to the exile of the Sanhedrin. Migamara, milishkat hagazim lechanut, umechanut liyerushalayim, umeyerushalayim liyavne. So the Sanhedrin went from this place to this place to this place to this place. Umeyavne leusha, umeusha leyavne, umeyavne leusha, umeusha leshafaram, umeshafaram lebeit sa'arim, umebeit sa'arim letzipori, ulemitzipori letiveria. Letiveria amuka mikulam mikulan, shenemar veshafalt me'eretz tidaberi. Tiberius is lower than all of them, is this kind of thing, and it brings a kind of a distant verse in order to make that connection, which we'll explore later. We're on page 31b. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Shesh Galot, Shenemar, Ki Hashach Yoshvei Marom, Kir'a, Niskaba, Yashpilena, Yashpila ad Eretz, Yagbiena ad Afar. Amar Rabbi Yochanan umishum atidin legael shenemar v'hitna ari me'afar kumi shevi. So there are 6 exiles according to Rabbi Eliezer, and here they are with some scriptural basis. And that's the end of our section about the exiles. Onward! Ma'netin, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha, v'od zot hitkin Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, she'afilu rosh beit din b'kol makom, shelo yihyu ha'edim holchim ele memokom hava'ad. So again, we're dealing with legal bases for where you may convene your beit din for the blowing of shofar. Gemara, vehi itata da'azmehu ledina kam'e da memar benahardia. Azal amemar lemachoza, velo azel batre. Kativ paticha illava. Amarle Rav Ashi la amemar. Ha anantnan afilu rosh beit din bechol makom, shelo yihyu ha'edim holchim ela mimokom va'ad. So we have another disagreement about when a beit din can stand in a given place. A story that we will get back to another time in the future. Amarle, hani mile le'inyan edut hachodesh, de'i kain nimtsae machsalan la'ati lavo. Aval hacha eved love le'ish malve. Tanu Rabbanan. En kohanim rasha'im la'alot b'Sanhedrin dekulan, v'zo echad mi tesha takanot shehitkin Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Shet dahai pirka chad bepirka kame. So the question is, when are priests allowed to ascend with their sandals on a platform to recite the priestly blessing, and when not after the destruction of the temple? And they bring a basis for this. Ve'idan detanan ger shenit gayer bezman hazeh sarich yafrish rova lekane. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Kfar nimna aleha Rabban Yochanan bitla mipnei hatkala. So the rabbis are now reciting different rules that the rabbis all agree they must, that were instituted at the destruction of the temple. This one's about converts and something. Ve'idach palugta de Rab Papa v'Rab Nechemia bar Yitzchak de Rab Papa Amar, Kerem Ravi'i, Rabbi Nechemia bar Yitzchak Amar, Lashon Shel Zahir. They're disagreeing about the nature of the fruit of a 4th-year grapevine versus whether it's a strip of crimson wool. Rab Papa Amar, Kerem Ravi'i, Detanya, Kerem Ravi'i, Hayu Olta Le'Yushalayim, Mahalach Yom Lekol Tsar, V'zo Hi Techuma. Elat min hatsafon, ve'akarat min hadarom, lon min ha'arva, ve'yarden min hamizbeach. They're disagreeing about what the basis is for why this is the disagreement that the rabbis are having. All right, onward. Va'amar Ula, Itamar Rabba, Bar Ula, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ma tam kedei la'atir shuk, Yerushalayim be'peulat. Cool? Vatanya, Kerem Revi'i Hayalo, L'Rabbi Elazar b'Mizrach, Lo B'Tzad Kafar Tafi, Ubikesh Rabbi Elazar Lahaf Kiro La'anim. Right? they continue debating where this fourth-year grapevine exists. Amru lo talmidav, Rabbi, kvar nimnu chaverecha alav, vihit ra'uhu, man chavarecha Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. That was a weird skip. Rabbi Nachman ban Yitzchak Amar, Lashon shel Zehirut, Titania Berishona hayu korshim Lashon shel Zehirut al petach ula umelchutz hilbin hayu smechin, lo hilbin hayu atzuvim, hitkanin shayu koshrin oto al petach ula umi vifne. So again, regarding the use of a strip of crimson wool on Yom Kippur, which Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak kind of extrapolates further. V'adayin hayu mitzitzin v'ro'in, hilbin hayu smechim, lo hilbin hayu atzuvim. So they were happy, they were sad, based on this crimson wool, and whether we were good to go. Hitkinu sheyu koshrin oto chatziyav besela v'chatzio bein karnav shel seir hamishtaleach. We're talking about this dispute of the rabbis that was instituted about this strip of crimson wool, which got slapped on the head of the scapegoat as part of the ritual of Yom Kippur. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, my taima lo amar karav papa. Why are we arguing that it's not like Rav Papa? Amar lach, I salkadatach Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, chave Rav de Rabban Eliezer, mi have, Rabban Rabo have, ve'idach, kevan de talmidim hayu lav orach ara de lam le memra le Rabban Rabach. So the dispute is between these two rabbis, and there is a rationale for why it might apply. Each one of these cases might apply to each of our sages. Rav Papa, my taima lo amar karav Nachman bar Yitzchak. What's the reasoning that that Rav Papa doesn't hold by Rav Yitzchak? Amar le, isakadatach Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai b'yamei Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai mi have lashon shel zehirut v'atanya. Kol shonotav shel Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, mea ve'esrim shana. Arba'im shana asak beparak matya. Arba'im shana lamad, arba'im shama limed. So the disagreement regarding why Rav Papa doesn't hold with Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak has to do with something about 120 years versus 40 years for the strip of crimson wool. Okay. V'tanya, Arbaim shana kodem she'necharav habayit, lo hayu lashon shel zehirut malbim ela ma'amidim. We're arguing about the destruction of the temple and the crimson wool turning white or not. Utnan, shechara beit hitkin Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Right? Ve'idach, otan arbaim shana de lamad, talmid yoshev lifnei rabo havi, ve'amar milta le'istabar tafe. A student sits before their own rabbi, meaning you hold by your rabbi on such a matter, and this is the reasoning that one would make. 32a, we're getting closer. One full page of Gemara till we take a break. Next week, we'll crush all the way down to the final paragraph. The Kabin Rabin Bishme, and his teacher instituted it in his name. That's how it resolves. The rabbi sits before a student sits before his rabbi. You don't disagree with your rabbi, right? Ma'nitin Seder Brachot, Omer Avot Ugivurot Ukedoshim Hashem Uklal Malchiot Imahem Ve'eno Tokea. Right? The order of blessings that we say on Rosh Hashanah is as follows for the Amidah. Kidushat Hayom V'Tokea, Zichronot V'Tokea, Shofarot V'Tokea, V'Omrim Avoda V'Hoda'a, U'B'Rachta Kohanim, Divrei Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So our rabbis give the explanation for when you blow the shofar and where you do it. Amar lo Rabbi Akiva. Im eno tokea lemalchuyot, lama hu mazkir. Ela omer avot ugivarot kedushat Hashem ukolel malchuyot im kedushat hayom v'tokea, zichronot v'tokea, shofarot v'tokea, ve'omer avoda v'hoda'ah u'birkat hakohanim. So Rabbi Akiva has a different version of where you blow the shofar and what the order is in the Musaf of of Rosh Hashanah. Gemara. Amar lo Rabbi Akiva, im eno toker lamalchuyot lamahu mazkir. Lamahu mazkir. Rachmana amar adaka. Ela lama eser lema tesha. Dehoil ishtani. So the rabbis are now trying to figure out, the Amoraic rabbis are trying to figure out what is the disagreement between the Stam of the Mishnah and Rabbi Akiva. Tanu Rabbanan, minayin she'omrim avot, shene'amar, havu l'Adonai b'nei elim, u'minayin she'omrim gevurot, shene'amar, havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz, u'minayin she'omar kedushat, shene'amar, havu l'Adonai kavod shemo, hishtachavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh. So why are we doing these verses? The answer is we base it on Psalm 29, which we say at Shabbat. And they pin each verse to each of the parts of the Rosh Hashanah Musaf repetition. U'minayin shomrim malchuyot zichronot v'shofarot, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, dichtiv, Shabbatun zichron trua mikre kodesh, Shabbaton ze kedushat hayom, zichron elu zichronot, trua elu shofrot. Mikra Kodesh, Kedushehu Ba'asiyat Malacha. So again, we have a verse from Leviticus 23. We pin all of Zichronot Shofar Malchuyot to that verse. Amar lo Rabbi Akiva, Mipnei ma lo ne'amar Shabbaton. Shavut, Shabo Patach Haktuv Techila, Ela Shabbaton. Kadshehu Ba'asiyat Malacha. Zichron Ela zichronot, trua, ela shofrot, mikra kodesh, zo kedushat hayom. Rabbi Akiva objects to why we don't say, why the reasoning for Shabbatot isn't different than his reasoning, which we will come back to at some point about 2 months from now. Minayin shomrim malchuyot, Tanya, Rabbi Omer, ani Adonai Elohechem, ubechodesh hashvi'i zo malchut. Why do we say Malchuyot? There is another set of verses that are established to it. Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda Omer, Einot Sarich, Hare hu Omer, Vayu lachem lezichron lifnei Elohechem, she'en Talmud lomar, ani Adonai Elohechem, uma Talmud lomar, ani Adonai Elohechem. Ze shebana av lekol makom shenemar bo zichronot, ihu malchuyot imahem. Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda establishes that the same verse that gives us Zichronot gives us Malchuyot, and therefore you don't need a whole other set of verses. But he disagrees with the Stam of the Mishnah and Akiva. V'hechi omra lekedushat hayom, Tanya, Rabbi Omer, im hamalchuyot omra, ma matzinu b'kol makom b'revi'it, af kan b'revi'it. We changed up the subject, and we are now dealing with the question of kedushat hayom, right? That's that blessing that we deal with that establishes specifically the holiness of Rosh Hashanah. Each of our major holidays has a kedushat hayom piece, and this is the basis for this one. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, im hazichronot omra, ma matzinu b'kol makom ba'etzba, af kan ba'etzba. Ba'emtza. Excuse me. It's not with your finger, it's with the middle. So Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel finds the basis for this is the same as the middle of all of the other amidas. Ukeshem miktashio beit din et hashana ba'usha, Yarad Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruka lifnei Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, v'asa Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Amar lo Rabban Shimon, lo hayu nohagin ken beyavne. Liyom hasheni Yarad Rabbi Chanina beno shel Rabbi Yossi Hagalili v'asa Rabbi Akiva. Amar Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, kach hayu nohagin beyavne. The rabbis are now having a disagreement about exactly how the Rosh Hashanah service is done after the destruction of the temple. And basically we finish with Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, the Nasi of the Sanhedrin, saying, yo, this is how we do it in Yavne, which is different than how it used to be done. Lamemra de Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Rabbi Akiva svirale. Who holds like Rabbi Akiva? V'ha amar Rabbi Akiva, malchuyot im kedushat hayom amar lehu. V'Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer, kedushat hayom im hazichronot amar lehu. Amar Rabbi Zera lomar shetokin lemalchuyot. The rabbis are disagreeing about where the appearance of kedushat hayom happens, whether it happens at malchuyot or whether it happens at zichronot, and where the blowing occurs. Liyom hasheni yarad Rabbi Chanina. My sheni ilema yom tov sheni lamemra da avura leilul v'hamar Rabbi Chanina bar kahana memot Ezra ve'elech lo matzinu ilul me'over. Amar Rav Chisda my sheni liyom sheni l'shana haba'a. Okay, so an argument about the rendering of the full moon that occurs in Elul that is kind of confusing, and I don't have time to explain. Ma'nitin ein potchim me'asara malchuyot, me'asara zichronot, u'me'asara shofarot. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri omer, im amar shalosh mikulan yatsa. The question of how much stuff do you got to say in malchuyot, zichronot, and shofarot to be exempt? How many verses from the Torah have you fulfilled the obligation? One rabbi argues it's 10. The other says it's 3. All you know that I like a nice short service, and therefore I would hold by Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Gemara. Hani asara malchuyot keneged mi. Why do we have 10? Amar Rabbi. Keneged asara hilulim she'amar David mesefer Tehillim. Hilula tuva hayu. Hanach dichtiv behu. Halalhu beteka shofar. So he's trying to find the basis for why 10. Rav Yosef Amar, Keneged Asara Hadiburim Shenemru Lo Moshe Basinai. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Keneged Asara Ma'amrot Shebahem Nivra Ha'olam. Hai Ninhu Vayomer. So we have two other rabbinic bases for why you say 10 for the Zeichronot Malchuyot and Shofar. Vayomer de Breshit Tisha Hayu. Breshit Na'amar Ma'amar Hayu. Dichtiv Dvar Adonai Shemayim Asa. One of the opinions is that you say 9, that you say 10 because of Breshit. The problem with that is, aren't there 9 verses in Breshit? And so we continue. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Omer, Im Amar Shalosh Mikulan Yatsa. If you say 3 for each, you fulfilled it. Ibailahu, they object. Hechan Katani, Shalosh Mina Torah, Shalosh Mina Nevi'im, Shalosh Mina Ketuvim, Tahayu Tesha, V'ika B'nehu Chada. O Dilma, Echad Mina Torah, Ve'echad Mina Nevi'im, Ve'echad Mina Ketuvim, Tahavinan Lehu Shalosh, V'ika B'nehu Tuva. Right? Are we saying that we need 3 from Torah, 3 from Nevi'im, 3 from Ketuvim, which would leave us 1 short of 10? Or are we saying 1, 1, 1, giving us 3 total? Tashma, Titania, Ein potchim me'asara malchuyot, me'asarot zichronot, u'masarot ma'asara shofarot. Ve'im amar sheva mikulan, yatsa, keneged shiv'a reki'in. So we have another baraita that comes and it says you can't do less than 10 for each, but you could do 7 for all of them. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Amar hapochet lo yivchat misheva. Now we go back to 7. Va'amar va'im amar shalosh mikulan yatsa. But if you do 3, you're good. Keneged Torah nevi'im v'ketim. One for each of the 3 sections of Torah. V'im of Tanakh. V'amri la keneged kohanim leviim v'Yisrael. Right? It's actually against the Kohanim, the Leviim, and the Jewish people, aside from Kohanim and Leviim. Amar Rav Huna, Amar Shmuel, halacha karebi Yochanan ben Nuri. So a later Tana agrees that we hold by Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. He's the guy who holds you only need 3 verses. Ma'nitin, ein mazkirin zichron. By the way, I don't think that's what we do, but we'll come back to that another time. Ma'nitin, ein mazkirim zichronot malchuyot v'shofar shel puranut. Matchil b'Torah u'mashlin b'nevi'im. Rabbi Yossi Omer im hishlim b'Torah yatsa. One does not mention verses of remembrance, kinship, and shofar that have a theme of punishment. When reciting the 10 verses, one begins with verses from the Torah and concludes with verses from the prophets. What did I say I was going to go to? 33a at the top. So how close are we? Oh, we're going to rip through this little section for a little bit while, and then we'll be good to go because we're honing in on this conclusion. Gemara Malchuyot Kigon Chai Ani Neum Adonai Im Lo Biad Chazaka Ubizrona Tuya Ubechama Shefucha Ve'emloch Alechem Ve'af Al Gav De Amar Rav Nachman Kol Ki Hai Ritcha Le Ritach Kedusha Berechu Alan Ve'lifrukin Nan Kevan de Beritcha Amar Ad Kure Ritcha Beresh Shata La Madakrinan. You can tell when we're doing Aramaic because I slow down significantly. They're arguing about why we do the Malchuya. Zichron Kigon Sheyizkor Ki Vasar Hema Vagomre Shofar Kigon Tiku Shofar Bigiv'a V'Gomre. Aval Im ba lomed malchut zichron v'shofar shapuranot shel nochrim omer malchut kegon Adonai malach yirgezu amim ukegon Adonai melech olam va'ed avdu goyim me'artzo zichron zichron Adonai lifnei edom Adonai v'gomre shofar kegon v'Adonai Elohim b'shofar yitka v'halach b'se'arot teman uketiv Adonai tzvaot yagen alehem. So we are dealing with the question of whether you can recite verses that deal with disaster. The answer is yes, but only if it's disaster for non-Jews. En kamazkirim zichron shel yechid va'afilu latova kegon Zachreni Adonai Berutzon Amecha Ukegon Zachra Li Elohei Letuva Pik Donon Hare Hen Ke Zichronot Kigon Varonai Pakad Et Sarah Ukegon Pakad Pakadti Etchem Divrei Rav Yossi Rabbi Yehuda Omer Ena Ke Zichronot. So continuing with verses that you might apply for your 3 sections. Rabbi Yossi, Nahi, Nami, de Fikdonot, Hare, Hen, Ke Zichronot, Varonai Pakad Et Sarah, Pikdon Diechidhu, Kevan de Ve'atu, Rabim Mina, Ke Rabim de Maya. So the rabbis are disagreeing about whether this verse about remembering Sarah is appropriate. So Usharim Roshechem Hinsum Pitchei Olam V'Yavo Melech Hakavod Miuza Melech Hakavod Adonai Yuzuz V'Gibor Adonai Gibor Milchama. So Usharim Roshechem Su Pitchei Olam V'Yavo Melech Hakavod Miuza Melech Hakavod Adonai Tzotu Melech Hakavod Sehela Rishon Shtayim Shnia Shalosh Divrei Rabbi Yossi. So you can apply these verses as you will. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Rishon Echad Shnia Shtayim. Are these 2 verses or are they 1? The rabbis disagree. Yehuda throws in his opinion. Zamru Elohim Zamru Zamu Lamalkei Zamru Ki Melech Kol Haaretz Elohim Shtayim Divrei Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Echad Shavin B'Malech Elohim al Hagoyim Elohim Yoshev al Kiseh Kodsho Vehi Echad. 2 rabbis disagreeing about how many verses each verse counts as. Fascinating. Zichron sheyesh bo trua kegon shabton zichron trua mikra kodesh omra im hazichronot ve'omrot im hashofarot divrei Rabbi Yossi. I need another cup of coffee. Rabbi Yehuda Omer eno omrat ela im hazichronot bilvad. Malchuyot sheyesh imo trua kigon Adonai Elohav imo utruat melech Adon bo ve'omra im hamalchuyot ve'omrat im hashofarot divrei Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Eina Omrim Ela Im HaMalchuyot Bilvad. The rabbis are disagreeing about whether this verse would fit better in Shofarot or Malchuyot. Trua she'ein ima lo klum, kigon, yom trua yihyeh lachem, omrat im hashofarot, divrei Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Eina Omrit, kol ikar. Right? The question of whether you sound the shofar should go in this section or in that section. Matchil b'Torah, umashlim b'neviim. Rabbi Yossi Omer, im hishlim b'Torah, yatsa. Im hishlim di ba'avad, in. Ulitchila la vehatanya, Rabbi Yossi Omer, hamashlim b'Torah, hare ze meshubach. Ema mashlim. All right, when you're going to do this thing, should you conclude with Torah or should you conclude with Nevi'im or Ketuvim? It'd be better if you concluded with Torah, one of the rabbis throws in. Vaha ishlim chatani de'ibad I v'chatchila la hachi kamar matchil b'Torah umashlim b'nevi. Rabbi Yossi Omer mashlim b'Torah ve'im hishlim b'nevim yatsa. Tanya nami hachi amar Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yossi vatikin hayu mashlim oto b'Torah. Right? Some rabbis say you can finish with prophets, but it'd be better. And the vatikim, the experts, they finish with Torah. Bishlama zichronot v'shofarot ikatuva ela malchuyot tlatu de havinan. Adonai Elohav imo utruat melech bo. Vayhi b'shirun melech. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Va'anan ba'enan eser leka. Right? These are the verses that you should do. You should really only do 3. However, that's not enough according to Rabbi Yossi. Amar Rav Huna, Tashma, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Easiest thing I've had to say so far today. Malchut, Divrei Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Eina Malchut. Can you say Shema in Malchut? One rabbi says yes, one rabbi says no. V'yadata hayom v'shavuta el levavecha ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim ein od. Malchut, Divrei Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Eino Malchut. Ata harata ladat ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim ein od milvado. Malchut, Divrei Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Enu Malchut. So the rabbis are disagreeing about what verses fit in Malchut. Fascinating. And we conclude thusly. Matnitin. Ha'over lifnei hateva. The guy who goes before the ark, i.e. the Shaliach Tzibor. Tov shel Rosh Hashanah. Hasheni matkia. Ubi shat hahalel. Rishon mekarev et hahalel. Right? So should your Shaliach Tzibor blow shofar, or should your Hallel blow shofar, or should your or which should do what, and so on. My shana shnei matkia mishum de rov hadarat melech I hachi halel nami nema b'sheni mishum de berov hadrat melech. What's the difference between having a second prayer leader sound the shofar for the additional prayer? The rabbis explain. Ela my shana halel de rishona mishum de zrizin makdimin lemitzvot. Tekia nami avde berishona mishum de zrizim makdimin lemitzvot. Right? Your zriz for the mitzvah if you do halal, your zriz for the mitzvah if you blow shofar. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, bishat hashmad shanu. After the destruction, we do it differently. Midakamar bishat halel, miklal de Rosh Hashanah, leka halel, right? This is the line in the Talmud that tells us that you don't do halel on Rosh Hashanah. We got there, people. We got there. My taima, Amar Rabbi Avuha, Amru Malache Hasharet Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam, Ma Ein Yisrael Omrot Shira Lifnecha Barosh Hashanah B'Yom HaKippurim. Why don't we say Hallel on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? The angels said to God. Amar Lahem, God said to the angels, Efshar Melech Yoshev Al Kisei Din, V'sifrei Chaim, V'sifrei Meitim, Potchim Lefanav, V'Yisrael Omrot Shira, right? Are the Jews going to sing Hallel when God has the book of death open? Never mess with a Sicilian when death is on the line. Matnitim shofar shel Rosh Hashanah. Ein ma'avirin alav et ha-tachum. Ve'ein mafkichin alav et hagal. Lo olin ba'ilan velo rochvin al gabe behema, velo shatin al pnei hamayim, ve'en chotchin oto, ben b'davar shehu mishum shvut, uben davar shehem mishum lo taseh. Aval, im ratza liten letocha mayim, o yain yiten. What can you carry on Yontiv and where can you carry it? This is where you get it from the Mishnah specific to Rosh Hashanah. Camels, wagons, boats, it's all in there, people. We've covered all the things. Ein makvin et ha-tinokot milit koa aval mit asek imahem al hayeladim v'hit asek lo yatsa v'hashomea min hamit asek lo yatsa. Can children sound the shofar just for fun? The answer is yes, but you didn't fill your obligation. My taima shofar asahu vayom asa velo taaseh ve'en oseh doche ve'et lo taaseh va'aseh. Why can't we do prohibited labor on Rosh Hashanah in order to sound the shofar? I feel like we've covered this, but what the heck? Let's go over it one more time. Lo olin ba'ilan, velo rochvin al gabe bahema. Why can't you climb a tree or climb onto the back of a horse? Hashda rabban amrat, lo, deoraita mi boy, zo, ein sarich lomar, zo katani. Right? You would think we've already learned this because it's pshat of the Torah. We don't need to have it in a Mishnah, but we're going to get it again. We're at the top of 33. There is a natural logical stop at the end of the words Nashim Sochim Rishut, which I think is where is it? Or we're at the top of 33a. Didn't we want to go to, where did I want to go to? That's 33b, top of 33a. Where's the piece with the women? Oh, that's further on. Let's do this Mishnah all the way down to Mipnei HaKavod, which is 4 more lines of Hebrew. We're close. All right. Ve'en chotchim. We're close to halfway of our super read. Ve'en chotchim oto. Bein badavar shehu mishum shvut. Ubein davar shehu mishum lo naaseh. Mishum shvut magala lo ta'aseh sakina. So why are we not cutting a shofar? Because it's something. All right, hashta mishum shvut amra la lo ta'aseh mi boy zo ve'ein tzarich lomar zo katani. Right now that you said you have to sound the shofar, one may not perform an action that is prohibited due to rabbinic law, and it is unnecessary to say that. Shouldn't we? Don't we already know this? Avolo im rotzei liten letocha mayim o yain yiten. We're dealing with the question of whether you can carry water or wine in your shofar. I'm pretty sure we did this way back in the second parak, maybe the third parak, which was a long time ago. Mayim o yain in. Yes, you can carry water or wine. Me raglaim lo. You can carry water or wine in your shofar, but you may not carry pee in it. Begging the question, why would one carry pee in their shofar? This is a great place to finish for the day. Matnitin mani, Abba Shaul hi, detanan Abba Shaul omer, mayim o yain mutar, kidei letzach tzecho, me reglaim asur mipnei hakavod. Who's the Tana of this Mishnah? The Gemara says it's Abba Shaul, as it's taught in a Baraita that Abba Shaul says, with regard to water and wine, you can permit it, you can pour these things into a shofar on Rosh Hashanah in order to help clarify its sound, but you may not pour urine into a shofar in order to clarify its sound because of kavod, right? You would think the rabbis would not have to explain, don't put your pee in the shofar, but however, urine is beneficial, it is disrespectful to place it in a shofar, which serves for a mitzvah. That's going to leave us off at, 33a line 4. We will stop there for the day. Thanks you all, yins all, for joining us. I have to stop the recording. 38 minutes.